Today we have Shona here. She's a fifth year engineering design master's student. She's a fifth year because she did a year in industry. In her spare time, she likes to... so what do you like to do?
So some of the things I've become involved with since joining university are the Salsa Society. So I go and do some salsa dancing every Monday. Also, I helped to found the Scouts and Guides Society. So that involved kind of setting up a weekly meeting for that. And in addition to that, I help out with brownies every week, which are 8 to 10-year-old guides and sometimes cubs too.
So getting straight into this, what A-levels did you do when you were like 17, 18, and also why did you pick those A-levels?
So the A-levels I did were maths, further maths and physics, and also design. I picked design because I really liked the idea of taking an idea that I'd thought up and making it real. So that was something that I thought was really cool, that you could take something that you'd thought up and make it a real thing. And I thought to be able to understand that, you needed something like a physics application. Also, the physics syllabus looked cool. We were finding out about kind of the electrons and protons and neutrons and what makes up an element, and that made me excited to see how they interacted. Another subject I took was maths. I took maths because I was good at maths at GCSE, and it made me happy to do something that I thought I was good at. And then I thought I wanted to pursue something STEM-like. I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to go to university, but I thought I wanted to go in that kind of direction. And further maths fitted with the kind of groups of options that I was given at A-level, and was also something that seemed like it would help me in my future career.
Okay, so you weren't sure that you wanted to go to university?
No, I wasn't sure till a lot later on. I was lucky enough to do an assortment of summer schools for students that either didn't go to private school or happened to be from a certain background, or actually I went to also a paid one, which allowed me to be exposed to the university environment. And actually, so I didn't decide that I wanted to go to university until the summer of year 12. It wasn't something I'd grown up dreaming I'd do. It was something that I developed through being able to go to these different opportunities.
So how can someone listening in get into a program like this? How did you get yourself into one of these programs?
It's amazing what you can find if you Google stuff. So I started by Googling summer school applications. Things I found were a Sutton Trust one, designed for people who were the first person in their family to go to university, and also from a state school. Another programme that is also available is called a Unique Summer School, UNIQ, and they're aimed at state school pupils and give them an opportunity to go to Oxford for a week. Now, I was fortunate enough to be accepted, had an amazing time, but did maths for a week. And what I learned from doing maths for a week was that it was absolutely not my cup of tea. And I guess that's something that was really important to me, with discovering...
So you did maths for a week, what, in Oxford?
Yeah.
Oxford University?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is for part of this summer school?
Yes, so that's a different one that I went to. So there's a Sutton Trust option, where I went to Imperial for a week. There's a Unique Summer School option, which is Oxford only. Sutton Trust is a few different universities. And in addition to that, there's the Head Start course. Head Start course is typically paid, but I think there are a few grants you can get. And I went to Brunel University for that, but there are a few options you can do. I guess if you're a little bit younger and listening to us, there's a thing called the Dragonfly scheme, similar to the Head Start scheme, but aimed at GCSE girls.
Oh, cool. So how did you know, that was very proactive of you at such a young age to, go out and seek out these things. I can't recall me being that proactive. So were you just, was there a certain push or like a drive or motivation factor which made you look up these things, or were you just, did you think it was just a good idea? I might as well try this out. Might as well do it. It
felt like a good idea. It felt fun. It felt like a good way to spend a summer. It felt like a way to meet new people in a really cool environment. Also, as well, if you're signing up to something for 3, 4, in my case, 5 years, actually being informed about that decision is helpful, and being able to explore all the options you've got available is a good idea. The way I chose to do that was through summer schools, but equally, and I was lucky enough to get on them, but there are other ways of doing it too. Visiting a university, I can remember I visited a few universities, looked at the buildings and thought, there is no way I want to go here. I just don't feel at home here. And those are other kind of options that made me think, oh, do I want to do this? Do I not? Going to the open days and speaking to the people on the stands. And I felt very much when I was at A-level kind of age, they were talking about all these modules like thermodynamics. I had no idea what they were going on about. And the kind of universities that I then chose to go to or considered further were the ones where people could explain to me what those words meant, and that made me think that they would be good universities to go to because they were teaching people in a way that I could understand, and therefore I thought I would be able to understand the content if I went.
After all that, why did you choose engineering design as opposed to another engineering degree?
So my answer for that, I guess, is probably not the most informed decision I've ever made, I guess. When I was at GCSE age, I was lucky enough to go and present my work at the Crest Awards. I did a biology project called How Clean Was Soap, and that involved
How clean my soap?
How clean was soap?
How clean was soap?
So that involved getting some E. coli, putting on a Petri dish, which is like some squidgy on some agar jelly, which is some squidgy jelly that makes or that allows the bacteria to grow, and then popping some soap in the middle of that kind of bacteria that was growing and seeing if it killed it. At the time, it was just a laugh with my friend that we were doing it as a science project, and my school were like, no, you should submit that to the Crest Awards. So off we went, had a great time, learned how to make rings out of Starburst wrappers like you do, and at the end they were like, you've made it through to the next round. We were like, right, okay.
Was this like a group project then?
Or? Oh, it was just me and my friend Steph.
Oh, okay.
And the Crest Awards is something that goes on nationally. So there's a regional thing, and then there's a final thing. So we got through to the final thing. Various different age ranges. You can do this at bronze, silver and gold level, depending on your age and your kind of level of science. I guess we went in at bronze. I hadn't made some time, met a guy from Airbus, and he sounded really cool. And then had to go to my careers advisor meeting, and they were like, what do you like? And I was like, well, I like design, and I like maths, and I might want to be an engineer. So we typed these words into Google, and engineering design came up. This was when I was in like year 9, 10. I was like, oh, okay. Then that thought went to the back of my head, and fast forward to year 12, and I hadn't really been considering applying to university, and my teachers were like, what do you mean you're not considering applying to university? And I was like, well, what is this? Is this magic place that people go and they get these qualifications? Do I need a degree? What's one of those? Like, why? And they're just like looking at me like I'm mad. So that was when I decided to do my proactive, I guess, in your words, research and look at these summer schools. And then they were like, right, okay, you don't get it, do you? You should be applying to Oxford or Cambridge. I was like, nah, I shouldn't. They're like, yes, you should. This argument went on for some time, and on the 1st of October, I decided I'd be applying to Oxford. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but actually, like, the deadline for applying to Oxford and Cambridge is the middle of October. So, having done zero university application-y stuff, only having this information that I gained from the few open days I'd been to in summer schools, to producing a fully fledged application. I did the whole thing in 13 days. Some advice: don't do that. Don't do it in 13 days. It's not enough time to do that. So Oxford was one of my top choices, and then they were like, you need another, and I use the words in inverted commas, good university to apply for. I was like, okay. Well, in year 9, they said like engineering design might be something I want to do. Okay, I'll put that down. And that was kind of why I initially chose to apply. There was no kind of, is it good at this? Is it good at that? It was near home, which was an important factor to me at the time. And they said I'd be good at it. So I guess I was like a product of my environment in the kind of way that I chose that.
That's an interesting way. That's a good way of putting it, I guess. Yeah, because it's no joke, a 5-year degree. Did you know at that time what an industry placement was, or?
Yeah, so I kind of knew I'd be wandering around, I guess, an engineering office trying to make myself useful in my year in industry placement. And actually, so to begin with. You pick 5 universities, so it was just one of my choices. It wasn't necessarily my top choice. In fact, at the time, my top choice I thought was going to be Cardiff Uni. Went to Cardiff Uni, it wasn't for me. Went to Loughborough Uni, is another of my options. Thought the course was great, but Loughborough was miles away, and the person that I was talking to at the time didn't feel as informed as the people I was talking to at Bristol, and so I was like, oh, okay, maybe not. Also applied to Plymouth, went down there. They've got an amazing campus down there, but didn't like what they were going to teach me. Didn't think that was something that was going to be useful to me. So they were the reasons I didn't pick those ones. And then you've got this course that I picked where the cohort was quite small. You've got a year in industry, and I thought, well, how do you test if this is something you want to do? Because they're using these big words like thermodynamics that I don't currently understand, and maybe I'd enjoy that, maybe I wouldn't. How do I test that actually the theory that I'm going to learn is going to be something I want to do every day? Maybe a placement would be good for that. And so that helped me choosing what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, actually. That's a really good way of like putting things in perspective. Also, just to give the audience a bit more information.
Yeah.
You don't have to go and do a year in placement. That's sandwiched into the degree itself.
No.
If you want, you could apply for summer internships,
yeah.
and that can give you a relatively similar experience as to whether you actually would like to do engineering and would like to stay in that field or not.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I actually did an internship. I didn't get paid for it, actually. I just wanted to do it because I wanted to. I did this at the end of second year. I wanted to do it because I wanted to see exactly if this is something that I wanted to do.
Yeah, sure.
At the end of fourth year, at the end of my master's degree. Encourage you guys to actually do this, even if you don't get paid for it. It's such a good opportunity. It's going to suck, just like shadowing engineers or maybe not doing that much, but that experience is so good, and if you put it on your CV, employers like highly regard that. So I highly recommend some sort of experience like that.
I've also done now 3 summer placements, might be 2. 1, 2, 3 months summer placements and 1 week long summer placement. And again, as Derek was saying, actually some of the stuff that you can gain from that's also invaluable. The reason I did mine was I needed a job over the summer, and it turned out that actually I could get paid for doing a thing that I might want to do. So it was like a 2 birds in one stone kind of category. So I'd really recommend the placement of any kind of length of time or position, because even if you've got 2 options, you either go into a placement that you think you want to do and discover you like it, in which case, great, you can carry on to that path, or discover you don't like it, also great, because you can change your path, and that's so valuable, knowing that before you get spat out into what I like to call the real world, which I'm rapidly approaching. You get to find out what's good and bad for you.
So taking another turn, growing up, in school, did you face any difficulties when you decided that you wanted to become an engineer, or when this was in your mind?
So difficulties I've faced are varied. I'm the first person in my family to go to uni. My family are incredibly supportive, more than happy to drive me to my open days, listening to whatever nonsense that I've got going on about, but they've not been. So you can't get a direct, this is how I felt at university from my parents, because they've not been. It doesn't mean they're not great, it just means that their perspective is different. So that's your first challenge of I want to do this thing that no one I've been around has ever done before. How do you go about doing it? And I guess that was what led me to be so proactive with the summer schools. How do you get the information if it's not there? Something like a summer school is really beneficial. Most schools have a careers advisor. Also, don't forget that any teacher that you're around will have been to university. So if you've not got that support from naturally from your background, that's okay. There are people around you that do have that, and don't be afraid to go and ask them. I had a great physics teacher, several, but one in particular who studied engineering, and he was more than happy to listen to my questions when I had them, and I had numerous, but use those bits of support. So that was my first challenge. My second challenge, I guess it wasn't a challenge, but it was more a shock to the system. You kind of when you get into your classrooms, you realise that actually there are more guys than girls. It affects different people differently. For me, I took a head-on approach of okay, we're all equal here, let's get on with it, and that for me worked really well. I guess the key is to remember you're as good as anyone else in the room, and to follow that through, particularly when you know, if you choose to go to university. An apprenticeship's another option you could consider. Like, believing that from the start and letting things like your exam results and what you think is good for you pave the way of whether you think you're good or not about, you know, whether there are people like you there or any of that. But I get that that's hard, that sometimes you want to identify with someone like you, and perhaps sometimes in an engineering environment there isn't always that. But if you look hard enough, and I guess it's hard that you have to look that hard being a female in engineering, there are plenty of people out there to support you.
So yeah, those are two really good points made there. You know, when you're young, it's difficult to be in that sort of mindset where you proactively, you know, seek out mentors and seek out information and people that can help you. But one of my favorite quotes for me personally is "Ask and you shall receive." I think it's like from the Bible. And honestly, like, if you there are people around you, and if you just ask them for just different things, a lot of the time they will give it to you, you know, whatever information you need, and they'll be happy to give it to you. And, you know, if they don't help you, you know, if they don't give you the information that you need, who cares? You didn't lose anything, right? So actually, you know, whether that be teachers or just applying for just things online or anything, or even like, you know, if you know a friend of a friend who works in an engineering company, just, you know, asking them for opportunities is good. Another thing you mentioned is you know, engineering is a male-dominated environment. It's becoming less and less so. I think more girls are actually tuning in. Slowly
it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wouldn't. So your advice is don't care about that. Well, it doesn't matter.
Keep going. You'll find that there are other women about, and you'll find that other people want to listen to you, and you'll find that largely the guys will treat you as an equal. Like, just don't spend your time stressing about it. It's not something you can change by worrying about it. It's something you can change by hitting your engineering head on, getting stuck in and getting involved.
Awesome. Cool. I met you when I was in my third year.
Mm-hmm.
You were doing one of my modules. How come you chose... Because the thing with your engineering design degree is, we had Patrick on earlier, who also does engineering design.
Yeah.
You can specialise into different, categories. Whether you can specialise into mechanical, specialise into aero, or maybe even other things.
Yeah.
Why did you personally choose to specialise into some of the more aero modules?
Oh, again, my answer is, I guess, based on various different things. We've got three choices when you're an engineering design student: aero, mechanical or civil. Now, the way that looked to me as a second year engineer on a piece of paper was civil engineering had loads of modules called Geo this, Geo that. What that meant was rocks, rocks and rocks. And I thought, I really don't need 2 modules of my life, like a quarter or a third of that year, to be spent looking at rocks. It's not what I want to do. I don't want to look at rocks. So that ruled out civil engineering for me. Mechanical engineering, I said, mathematical proof after mathematical proof after mathematical proof. And I thought, not really something I'm feeling. And that's not to say that actually that's what either civil engineering or mechanical engineering is. It's just that's what it felt like to me at the time. Then I got to the aerospace options, and it said things like, we get to do flight dynamics and control. P.S. If you do this module, you get to go in a glider. I was like, I'd like to go in a glider. And then there was another module called something space, and
also,
I was like,
can I just add in, by the way, it was awesome experience. I got to like do a rolly, like a barrel roll, and just like, oh my god, it was amazing.
Can I just say, it turned out I did not have such a great time. Still to date, the only person to throw up in a glider. Like, I
threw up in a glider?
Yeah, I threw up in a glider.
No way.
Yeah. Over myself and then the instructor's hood. So the moral of the story is, if you get to go in a glider, turns out you're not necessarily going to have a fun time, and maybe you should pick other methods to pick your modules. But that was one I went with.
You kept that one secret. I didn't know. You never told me that.
Funny enough, no. No, I thought that was I just keep under my hat. Space systems, though, an amazing module taught by a really inspiring female lecturer. There are some awesome demos, and I wanted to be a rocket scientist. I thought, wow, that's cool. And so when you've got these cool opportunities on offer, and also at the time, again, it's university dependent. The aerospace units were more coursework based, and I thought that would suit me better. So there are all these kind of things that factors that come into play. Whether you think you're going to be interested and engaged is so important. If you think it's going to bore you to tears, don't do it, or get more information to decide whether that's true or not. But just taking it for the sake of taking it is probably not the way forwards. And also thinking about what you want your end career to be. I discovered by taking the aerospace modules, what I was doing is like the mechanical engineering degree plus a bit, and so I felt like I wouldn't be limited by any from any mechanical engineering job by taking the aerospace modules too much. Whereas I felt if I was doing the mechanical engineering degree, I wouldn't gain, the understanding of going in a glider and discovering that makes me really sick, or any of those kind of bits that make that are necessary that you need to have to be an aerospace engineer.
Cool. So, do you have any plans after you graduate?
Plans after I graduate. What a lovely question. So, I think what most people find, or seemingly from my understanding of talking to other people, is that when you get to the end of your degree, I guess expect to feel like you do now, expect to not be sure about what you want to do next, expect to have to go and search for the options, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're any further behind. It's just like a natural part of doing an engineering degree or any other degree. I guess all the advice we've given today is generally quite applicable to other subjects. Currently I'm searching for jobs, both within the engineering sector and outside of it. That's not to say that I don't want to do engineering, it's just to say I've picked, again, as I said about modules, picked options that I think will interest me, from schemes where I'm managing people to schemes where I'm doing deep technical stuff. And I think my advice would be, when you get this far, is just to keep applying to things that you think will make you happy or that you could do every day, and see what you get back.
Cool. I feel like that's a really good advice. For me as well, actually, to be fair. And for final year students. Well, it's been great to have you on. I hope.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. I hope the audience has got a lot of value from this podcast, and see you next time.
Bye.